Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Cheers from Afar. And third time's a charm. We were having some internet issues, but let's see if we can make it work. I'm here with my good friend Wilson. Wilson is from Edmonton, and he is a fantastic person. And we are going to be trying our 2 and 2. It is a milk stout with coffee. And you'll notice in the bottom, it has a little logo, CRW. And Wilson, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CRW?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me today. I know we've been quarantined and I literally went outside to stare at the sun today for 2 minutes and I went back inside. And I did my hair for the first time in like 2 weeks. So thank you for actually having me do something. Yeah, the CRW, it stands for, it's two of my other best friends, William Chen and Curl Reyes. They are the C and the R, and I am Wilson Wong. So the three of us together, we make the crew. And the way the company actually ended up happening was one day I got a text from Will, and he's like, yo, we should sell coffee. And him and I used to work insurance together. And he used to own a ramen shop, and I sell Cutco, and I have other various businesses as well. And I was like, yeah, let's totally do it. Fast forward, and that was in October of 2019. Fast forward, no, that was 2018. And then literally 3 months after, it was January of 2019. We went to Vietnam, we sourced our beans, and by July of 2019, so 6 months after, we already had a full-fledged website. We paid the lawyers, we got the whole everything, and our coffee was launched.
Yeah, well, days like today, like 2019 does seem like 6 years ago. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so this is a fairly new release for us. We call it the 2 and 2, the double double, 2 cream, 2 sugar, whatever you
Yeah.
wanna call it. It is a milk stout with the delicious CRW coffee and lactose sugar. Um, it is available in Grand Prairie. You can give us a call, order online, and we will deliver it directly to your door. We're retailing it for $10 a bottle. It's a 650 ml bomber, so a great size for not going anywhere. And if you are anywhere in Alberta, there are a couple of cases left on Liquor Connect. You can get it, and the SKU is 828960. So why don't we crack it open and
Sure.
see what we're working with here?
Do you know what's so funny? When it was on Liquor Connect, I kept bugging. Oh shucks. We ended up buying like a full case. Like that was it. We just bought 12 bottles off the rack, and it was great.
So if we were to enter this particular beer in a BJCP sanctioned competition, we would put it probably under 30A, which is spice or vegetable beer. And we do that just because of the lactose in the coffee. And then, of course, we let them know that the base style is an American stout. But yeah, it's got a lovely meringue doughy head, super opaque. You can see yourself smiling back at you. But cheers. Here's to you, Wilson.
Cheers. Thank you so much for even humoring the idea of making a coffee stout. I think a dream of mine would be to one day have a category which is just coffee beer, because Grand Prairie has a wonderful local roaster, Wapiti Bean Co. And you and I are friends with Candace there. But throughout Alberta, there's these micro roasteries that are starting to pop up. And I encourage everyone to support not only local, but to try out different coffees, because the coffee in the beer world is very similar, because there are so many different notes and regions that these beans are grown. It's so fun to experiment. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for even like using our Vietnamese coffee for this.
Yeah, absolutely. While we're on the note of Vietnamese coffee, why don't you tell us a little bit about the beans that you source and what makes them special?
Yeah, believe it or not, Alberta is really predominantly known in the especially in the micro roastery community for their Costa Rica, their Colombian beans, for sure Ethiopia. Ethiopia is probably the most famous Arabica beans. Now, when Will and I went to Vietnam, or all three of us went to Vietnam, we would just sit there and we'd like have a Vietnamese coffee, and the thing about Vietnam, their culture is very chill. Like they'll have like a small cup, maybe the size of my cup, and they'll literally nurse it for like 2 hours. They'll drink it like whiskey, where you just sip it and sip it and sip it. And you have these beautiful iced coffees. You have the condensed milk coffee, which is what a lot of people know Vietnamese coffee to be. It's a layer of condensed milk, and then they have a dripper called a fin filter. And I kind of realized, like, wow, I really like coffee. And when you start trying specialty coffee, it goes from Starbucks, like Tim Hortons and Second Cup, to Starbucks, to a local cafe. And then eventually you start going to these specialty coffee shops and you're like, wow, I want to try this type of Arabica because it has notes of grapefruit and it's black currant. Or you want to try this Ethiopian because it's sour and sweet and so on and so forth. But in the coffee culture, what we have is Robusta. So there's Indica and Robusta, and Robusta, and Robusta has almost 2 times the amount of caffeine in it, and it has a more robust flavor. So those beautiful, like, intricate details that you find in Arabica is actually not there in Robusta. A lot of people don't like it because it's known as filler coffee. So whether it's Folgers, and I don't want to like point fingers or name names, but that is one of those brands that they use a lot of Arabica and they blend it with other Robusta. So you get that, that morning kick. Mm-hmm. So when we went to Vietnam, we really wanted to go search for high quality Robusta, and we were able to find that. And this is where we got it, from the Dak Lak province.
It is, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it pairs really, really nicely with the beer. And I know it even on the label, it's advertised as a Vietnamese coffee beer. Mm-hmm. I know, like, I'm typically like about 2 pot a day coffee drinker. But when we were in Vietnam, I noticed that I was usually limiting myself to usually 1 cup a day, just because the coffee there, like you said, made with the sweetened condensed milk, like, it is bold, and yeah, you do end up sipping it. Whereas, back here, even at the brewery, if I'm making coffee, it's usually just like drip coffee, or I'm doing a press or an AeroPress or something at home. But it's pretty much just goes straight into an IV. And but I think with when it comes to the beer, like, I know we wanted something that had a hint of sweetness, a little bit more of a bold coffee flavor, but we wanted something. I mean, we knew that it was going to be going into 650 ml bottles. I knew I was going to be opening them by myself, and we didn't want something that was a little bit too much. So I'm finding that the beer, the coffee is balanced with the flavors. There's a sweetness to it, but it's nothing like drinking the condensed milk that you would maybe be used to having when you are having either Vietnamese coffee in Vietnam or Vietnamese style in Canada.
What I love about what you did with the beer is you had full autonomy to do whatever you wanted. You could make it super sweet, super bitter, super this, super that. But you ended up making it a 5%er. And not only that, it's not overly abundant in terms of sweetness, because when Christmas rolls around and people start creating these dessert beers, mm-hmm. It's almost like ice wine. Like, you can drink a whole bottle of wine to yourself, but you can't drink a whole bottle of ice wine to yourself. And what I really like about this is the fact that I can crush a full bottle and one more if I felt like it. Or one is good enough because it's not overly abundant in sweetness. Mm-hmm. So I think you nailed it on that. And the way you made it, how did you make it? Did you cold brew it? Did you steep it? Like, what was like your concept behind that?
Yeah, we made like a cold brew concentrate with your beans, and then added it post fermentation to the beer itself. The reason we usually do things like that, like sometimes you'll see brewers putting the beans in like in the boil or like right at the beginning of fermentation. And I mean, would you add your coffee beans to a pot of boiling water if you're going to make coffee?
No.
Yeah. So when water is boiling, all of the air is leaving the solution. And I mean, if you're to do that, the house would smell great, but that's because all of the aroma is at that point leaving.
Yeah.
It's not in the liquid anymore; it's in the air. So we don't add the coffee to the boil because we want to make sure that all of those aromatics, especially the delicate ones, remain in the beer. And actually, fermentation, if you've ever done any home brewing, you can see it almost looks like the beer could be room temperature, but it almost looks like it's boiling, the amount of bubbles that are leaving. And so, especially at the beginning of fermentation, it's pretty active. And a lot of those volatile aromas can be lost. The third reason why we added it as a cold brew concentrate post fermentation was you have a lot more control. It's definitely easier to add more coffee than it is to take it out after you put it in. So that's with this particular beer. We waited until it was done fermenting, and then we were able to like titrate smaller amounts and then scale up once we found the blend that we felt was appropriate.
Yeah, when it comes to scaling your beer, this is something that I'm naive to. Like, how much beer does one of your tanks hold, and like how many? Because you did so many bottles, how much? Yeah, in terms of volume liquid, did you end up brewing?
So our brew house is a 3-barrel system. So it usually starts around like 300 liters of liquid. And then we do a lot of double and triple batching. So we can do as much as 750 liters in a double batch, or we can really stretch out our system and do a full 1,200 liters in a triple batch. So this particular one, we did around 800 liters. Just with the volume of coffee that we had. And it's just we were with scheduling and stuff. We tried to do enough to justify being able to package it. It was something that we really wanted to send. I mean, obviously to you and across the province. So we wanted to make sure that we did have enough to be able to justify packaging it in the bombers and sending them out.
It was so cool because it almost was so surreal when it finally came out, because earlier I was saying, we bought a whole case. I would call Sherbrooke, honestly, like every second day, be like, did you get it in yet? Did you get it in yet? Did you get it in yet? And then finally, like on the first day, we bought like a full 12-pack bomber, and they sold out after like a week. Like it was all gone because I have such amazing and supportive friends that they ended up buying a bottle here, a bottle there, and by the end of the week, it was all gone. Granted, we had like a full case, and Sherbrooke only bought like 36 bottles.
Yeah.
About a third of it. So cool. Like, and here's the thing, like, I think Rainbin, I know like you are Grainbin and with all the other partners as well, but you have so many beers coming out every second week, or at least that's what it feels like. And I love that about GP right now. Like you really put it on the map. And like, are you looking to do other different stuff with not just coffee, but with different like products, I guess? Like, I don't know, like one day you're going to make some sort of like raspberry, like stout, unless you already did something with raspberries. I don't even remember.
No, we definitely try to work with local producers and see what's available. So we've done a lot of stuff with Haskap berries from a local vineyard, and then we also work a fair bit with other like beverage producers. like Steep Peak Kombucha in Crow's Nest Pass. We've done quite a few projects with them. And so we're always looking for opportunities to kind of explore the boundaries of what is possible.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, like, do you have a quarantine batch that you're making where it's like a fend for yourself batch? Like,
actually, we had recorded another one of these episodes earlier today, and
oh, no way.
The earlier on we were calling it Beer with a Brewer, but I decided to change it up a little bit, so now we're calling it Cheers from Afar. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to be releasing an American brown ale called Cheers from Afar. So that should be in cans
Cool.
in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's so exciting. Does it come with toilet paper? It's an American brown ale doesn't come with toilet paper. Come on, you're gonna have to like end up making like a mac and cheese like sour ale or something, because that's what everyone's buying up now. Is just all these carbs. You can survive like a nuclear warfare with just mac and cheese. Just add water, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know, like, if you got a chance to do another coffee beer, what would you do? Would you do another milk stout or like a different version? Or like, would you do some sort of like coffee kolsch or coffee sour or something crazy like that?
Yeah, I know I think last summer I had a lager from, I believe it was Lighthouse. It was a coffee lager, and that was delicious. I know last summer, the summer before, like the white stout styles were quite popular as
Oh,
well.
what's a white stout? Educate me on that. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, so it is essentially a lot of like the roasted malts, the coffee flavors that you would get in a stout, but rather than using the malts to get the color and the flavor, you can add things like coffee to get that aroma, and like cacao nibs and stuff like that to bring out some chocolate. So just like using different things to get a lot of those flavors that you search for in a stout, but then brewing it in a lighter beer.
Yeah. If you were, I guess the way I look at it, if you got a chance to pick other people's brains or have other brewers, in this sense, brewers pick your brain when experimenting with beers, is it usually better to do like a cask or like just home brew, like something even smaller than that before you start trying to scale? And what is it like scaling something that's like delicious as maybe something smaller, but when you go bigger and bigger, I think that separates, the big dogs from the home brewers.
I think one of the things is knowing your equipment, and so if you're using a pilot system, replicating maybe a more simpler basic recipe to see how that beer does scale. Like if you're going to do a clone on your bigger system to your pilot system, I think it's just really, it's brewing tons and tons of beer on both systems and getting to know what works and what you need to tweak. And then any adjunct that you're adding is always going to react a little bit different. So when you're doing scaling recipes into a bigger size, like one of the bigger things people notice is you use less hops, because bigger systems are going to be a little bit more efficient. And then, you're going to use a little bit less grain as well to get the same amount of alcohol, just because you're able to extract more sugars out of it. So there are things that are always going to be changing. And so once you get to know your equipment, it's a little bit easier to figure out what's going to happen. Casks are a great way to experiment with flavors, because then, you've only got like 5 or 10 gallons before you need to say goodbye to it. So if it doesn't turn out
You dump it or you don't.
yeah. And so I know, like, brewing beer, it's a business, and you do need to be able to make money off of it, or at least cover your losses and stuff. So before you throw everything that you can financially at something, it's a good idea to make sure it's going to react the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the adjuncts too, like whether it's coffee or fruit or anything else, like it's especially on larger scales, like it's not cheap, and so if you're adding those extra things to it, that can definitely can definitely be a little disappointing once you have all of those sunk costs into the larger volume.
It's pretty much like less is more if you want to scale big. And it's one of those things where it's like you could have a $200 guitar or a $2,000 guitar, but if you don't have your skill set, like if you don't have mastery of your equipment, it doesn't matter if you have like the best or the biggest system, because you don't have what it takes to actually brew on a small thing and then educate yourself on how to scale it bigger, right?
Totally. You could be, Jack White preferring to play on his toy of a guitar.
Yeah.
And he's incredible, and he's got that unique sound because of it.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. I'm really happy that we were able to do this project together. I'm really happy that we were able to take the time to have a beer together. I was a little bit disappointed. I think it was this week that you're supposed to be in Grand Prairie.
Yes, I was going to be up there for the Home Garden Show.
Yeah.
That got moved to June, though, so I'm glad that they didn't cancel it. At the same time, I'm pretty sure everything is just going to be postponed until June, July, August.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. When I come up, I'm going to come up, and I'm going to come up bearing gifts, that's for sure. You'll be well-stocked.
Fantastic. So yeah, again, thank you. I mean, I'm pretty bummed. We usually get to see you a few times a year.
Yeah.
Upset that we haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
But how if somebody's interested in picking up some of your coffee, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, sure. I actually got a discount code for you. So the first place that you can go check us out is on our Instagram, which is Crew Coffee Yeg. So CRW Coffee YEG, Crew Coffee Yeg. And I actually got one of my packages right here. So we're on Instagram and on Facebook, and our website is crewcoffee.com, which is www.crwcoffee.com. And the discount code, you can apply this at your checkout. We're going to give you 15% off. And because this is a beer episode with you, Dalen, it is beer 15. We didn't want to complicate it. It just seemed really fitting. Beer 15 at your checkout, and you will get 15% off your coffee bag. And we'll ship it out to you and direct. Or one day I'll literally drive up to Grand Prairie 5 hours away. 3.5 if you drive fast enough. I'll deliver it by hand. So thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I mean, if there's anybody listening from the Grand Prairie area, I'm going to be putting in an order, and I will aim to have it delivered maybe we'll say the cutoff at the 15th of the month. And so if you want to save a little bit on shipping can be on us. We'll get it shipped directly to Grain Bin, and then we can deliver it with some beer to you. So if you're interested in getting some coffee, order it from Wilson. Ask to get it shipped to Grain Bin. We'll do a big order together, and then we'll deliver it to your door, so you don't have to go anywhere.
Yes. So when it comes to the delivery side of things, if you this is going to be on your checkout. Thank you so much for doing that too, Dalen. It's very impromptu. Love it. But just put Grain Bin's address. And if you put Grain Bin's address, we'll know that every single one of those coffee bags will go to Grain Bin. And then Dalen will either do the delivery, or when they are open during the quarantine hours, you just grab a bag and pick it up there.
Fantastic. So again, the cutoff is April 15th. So get your orders in before then, and shipping will be on Grain Bin.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dalen.
Yeah, thanks again, Wilson. And here's to you.
Cheers to you, buddy.
Cheers.
Stay safe out there. Stay healthy. Don't go outside. It's bad for you, apparently.